to read tonight is called Handwriting. I wrote it for my late mother, and she was a drug addict, and she's no longer with us. She passed away in 2013. And this poem just like poured out of me on last Wednesday night when I was like, you know what, I just need to write. And I started journaling, and then all of a sudden I was just, here's this poem. So it's called Handwriting. Oh, and there's one thing I have to add. In this poem, I have quotes from from my from letters that my mom used to write us within it. And you'll know when it comes because it's going to be really repetitive, and it always starts with I have all the answers. And now I'm going to start the poem. My mom wrote us letters, and as I think of the letters she wrote, they seemed so much like the journal entries that I write in my own journal, thinking about how beautiful her penmanship was, her handwriting. I recall as a child being mesmerized by my mom's lovely handwriting, not even fully comprehending the letter she wrote, but admiring how she formed her letters in her words. How it seemed as though you could feel her love from us, from the way she wrote. And to know that paper, that letter was in her hands, and that she wrote it for us, for me. No matter what, keeping a tether between her and us always. A letter here and there, a phone call when it worked, and special trips to Red Bank, New Brunswick to see her, our mom, with Migaju and Suki. And even though she's no longer here, I can still feel that connection, that tether, full of love and precious memories, strengthened by photos of us with her, our mom, and with letters curated with love from her, our mom. Words that can last a lifetime and even longer, reminding me that I have all the answers and can overcome any obstacles. You wrote this letter 13 years ago. You've been gone for 8 years now. These letters you wrote bring me back. I continue to admire your penmanship, your handwriting, and can still feel the love coming off the page as if you're pouring your love into me in this moment. As I read your words, reminding me that I have all the answers and can overcome any obstacles, and that I come from very strong women, my grandmothers, my great-grandmothers, and so on, and that I will always be with her, my mom, no matter where I go. Because she, my mom, will always be with me, as she, my mom, is a part of my being. Even my own handwriting reminds me of her handwriting. We have different styles, but both our styles are beautiful in their own ways, just like our spirits, similar and different, but also beautifully bright. I carry your spirit with me, continuing to always be tethered to you through love, carrying you with me and reminding me that I have all the answers and can overcome any obstacles. Yasalu. And that means I love you in Mi'kmaq. And then just to finish, this is a picture of my mom and I when I was 2. obviously like a birthday, right? There's a cake.
I'm still having a look at traditional poems at fixed poem forms. And the one that I will be reading tonight is called a pantoum. And a pantoum originated in Malaysia and then moved to the French countryside. And it can be any number of verses as long as they are quatrains or 4-line poems. It may have rhyme. It doesn't require a certain meter. But the really interesting thing about this is that the first and fourth lines of the preceding verse move into the first and third lines of the next verse coming along. Like a wave, it advances forward. And like any wave, it might pick up a grain of sand or a little seashell or something. Although the lines will be the same as they're repeated, the verb tense might change, or maybe a word in there will change. So here's my attempt at a pantoum. This is called, or pantoum, I'm sorry. This one is called White Ghost. The sight of a white ghost on tundra's edge seems a stark reality is beginning to dawn, and the failing ice road to the food supply means the wasting death of a northern icon. A grave reality is darkening the dawn, a devastating result of global warming. The wasting death of a northern icon heralds even greater disaster is forming. A devastating inquiry of global warming, blinded by ignorance that fuels hot greed, heralds even deeper wounds are forming. Will anyone stop a fateful bleed? Denied by ignorance that fuels hot greed, snow and ice and sea bear is lost. Will anyone stop this fateful bleed? Will they pay a fatal cost? Snow and ice, Ursa's Marimitus lost, will leave this earth diminished, but we will pay the final cost. Whole lessons left unfinished. What leaves all lives diminished? The failing ice road to food supply means life on the earth goes unfinished, or so the sight of a white ghost on tundra's edge seems. Thank you.
Well, this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek poem that I wrote in the middle of the night when I was wide awake, as I am so many nights lately. It's called Growing Old. It's an odd thing, this growing old. It takes you unawares, for the real you does not notice the passing of the years. You stare in consternation at the stranger in the bathroom mirror, and you wonder who and when and how. But there are some perks with growing old. Seniors discounts and restaurants which will sell you a half-size dinner at a little bit off full price. And two, those body parts society decrees you must shave if you're a woman stop growing so much hair. But sadly, in compensation, your aging genes decree you'd look much better with a brand new beard and mustache. Another perk is daytime naps, which you're free to attempt after many a sleepless night, not having any other crucial demands on your time. And since your senses are likely not what they once were, you won't even hear the telephone or doorbell summoning you to awake. Ah, well, should we survive our younger years, old age comes to us all, with loss and many deprivations, but still, as others have said, it sure beats the alternative.
So last couple of years, there's been a lot of noise about mining the eastern slopes for coal. And for me to get an understanding of where exactly I'm at with the issue, that's one of the reasons that I make poems. So this is a poem that's kind of a part of getting that picture together for myself. Mountains and foothills, Landscapes are too large to be butchered behind closed doors. Too large to be cut open in a bathtub. Too large to be bled out in a sink. Fences and gates and no trespassing signs are erected till the sacrifices are surrounded. Mountains stand behind barbed wire, and rolling hills lay down in vast pastures. Soil eats vegetation, it chews and digests, chews and digests. An industrial saw roars into sound. A mud-caked and hard rock hide is sliced open. The slaughter begins.
When the flaming light colors of the summer are done, autumn tones and snowfall are clashing it out. Not aligned by date, but she's on the cusp of seasons change, or so it seems, the all things in between. Welcome the darkness and mystery. The shadows of the night work in synchronicity. All hail the intrigue of Halloween, where that of fright congregate, meet and devise, where we embrace the darkness, and all that is spooky in folklore and tales are emphasized. Long lived this celebration of the creatures of the night. Long lived this celebration of the magical and supernatural, ritual, spellcaster, or whatever witchy craft grabs you. Harness that power, this date, this hour, of the vampires, witches, ghouls, and ghosts, the obscene, for the grave risers, boogie monsters, for the Wolverine. To eager-eared listeners, now raise your silver glass. Hurrah to this 31st day of October, this rowdiness invoker, this day that's anything but mediocre. The abyss gleams. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Grief comes in all shapes and sizes. I miss the life I used to have. I miss the life I'll never live. I lit the match, I walked away, but I never realized just how much would go up in flame. Rising from the still smoldering embers of phoenix I became. Still, memories float to the surface, unbidden at the strangest times, on the haunting echoes of a steel guitar and lyrics of a country song. No one warned me that grief came from more than death, and that death comes in all shapes and sizes, and the scent of smoke from burning ashes will embed itself in your soul. I grieve a life forgotten. I grieve a life not lived. Right now, I don't know what it will be like to miss you, yet I think it can't be worse than staying here. The moonlight whispers that I've thought that before, but it's cold and I go inside before I hear her call. The grief still clenches my heart. Her fingers still intertwine with my soul. I sigh. A deep cleansing breath from my belly. As I take a last look at a starless sky, I have survived the first fire, and I will survive the memory of this one too.
I am trying to keep my head on straight, but it is swimming. Trying to concentrate, but I am spinning. Your gentle laugh, the cross of your teeth, your silly grin make me come undone. Your sweet voice and how it growls and squeaks make me give over, Oh, come, make me complete. I'm trying to be spiritual. Let's be friends. And still, my heart beats heavy when I see you there. Everything else, I don't care. You are in my blood like holy fire. Of your love, I will never tire.
The powerful you. You are so much more than your scars, your trauma, your losses and fears. You are so much more than your shoulds, your coulds, your cannots and inadequacies. You are way more powerful than you think. Let your powers emerge from your core. Let your light shine bright. Let your potentials come forward. Embrace every aspect of what you are. You are the sum of your ancestors. Let them show you the way. Let them lead you to discover the true, powerful you. You are so much more than your scars, your trauma, your losses, and fears.
I know all you artists know what a triptych is. It's a maned painting with two paintings on either side that carry the mood and the theme of the original painting, but add to it. It turns out that in poetry, there is a triptych as well. And they can be written in a few ways, but a triptych is usually a timeline. It's about, in poetry, it's about the past, the present, and the future. So this is my COVID triptych, and it's called A View from Here. Muscle slacked, backed, pressed against green. My mind widens, circles upward. This cloud, then that one drifts, birthing old into new reality. The lamb lingers, but the lioness overtakes. Muscles tense, so quick. Anticipation, curious how lamb and lioness coexist. Elements sisters, but so different. And now, locked in, gazing out through dusty pane, my mind takes flight, like a songbird from a budding branch rising up, slipping the boundary of dread. She is free to soar, sing out her melodies, do as she always has done, while I, a shackled wren, throat husky in fearful voice, wait for precious freedom, for release from invisible cage, no longer trapped by a formidable foe spreading its creeping arms, but able to make ambitious plans as I was once free to do. Like a bubble rising up, airy, iridescent, and thin-skinned, striving again for loftier heights, ever seeking the selfish view, but seeing a faithful earth waiting for me to grasp reality before time runs out, and I, failing to adjust, pop.
I wrote this poem a while ago after reading something my cousin had written. My cousin is a really wonderful writer, and both her parents died this year, at the beginning of the year, within about 3 weeks of each other. And she wrote something about death and how it impacted her and how close she was to her father, how very special he was to her. So I wrote this poem coming out of that. It's called Something Splendid. There's something splendid that happens at times between a father and a daughter. Oh, not that daddy's little princess crap, but a genuine bonding of souls, of hearts, of minds. No wonder mothers are sometimes jealous. It was like that for me and my beloved dad. I'm told he once stood over my crib, marveling, and said to my mother, "How could we ever have wanted a boy?" I don't remember that, of course, but when I learned of it somewhat later in life, it gave me much needed solid ground. I was wanted. I was loved. I was cherished. My parents were in many ways opposite, as were my brother and I, but the four of us made a good balance. Oh, don't misunderstand me. We were as dysfunctional as the next family, but we worked. We had fun. We sang. We laughed. We cried. We learned about life together. Two childhood gifts meant so much to me, still recalled with pleasure. One, a yellow-covered hardback book of Greek myths, which I read over and over. The second, a small wristwatch, which I wore for many years. Although it stopped working, I have it still. Both gifts were given at my father's instigation because he knew me. Of the many days I've spent so far, one stands out in treasured memory. My family was in Llandudno, my father's home, staying in the now long gone Gogarth Abbey Hotel. On one of our few precious days, my father and I took off together and rode innumerable buses around this little bit of North Wales, across to Conwy, down the Conwy Valley, through lovely Betws, then west and back up to Caernarfon. From there we crossed to Ynys to the little village of Llanfair PG, whose railway station was still in use and whose famous sign still stood proud and long. We posed for photographs and purchased a platform ticket slightly dearer than the norm because of its length. We marveled at a passing man who doffed his cap and wished us bore da, a good morning in Welsh. How I wish now I could have replied in kind. That day our hearts thrummed with love, with beauty, and with the pangs of hiraeth. For I was supposed to have been born here in this land, instead of being transported to Canada, where I was delivered 4 months later. My father told me stories of his youth and pointed out the sights I can still recall so well. It was a day of joy, of blissful communion, lasting but an instant, except in memory. My father is gone now for more than a quarter century, and I miss him so. I know how very blessed we were to have this bond, this special closeness like no other. Such is not rare, but neither is it common. For those of us fortunate enough to know Dad as a synonym for love, we carry that through life and through death. How I wish it could be so for all daughters.
I grew up, my extended family, they were dairy farmers. And I was there sometimes when the cattle were being bred. So this is kind of like a little bit of that. Yesterday's birth was bred 9 months ago or so. No bull. Left hand, forearm almost to the elbow, plastic bagged. Pushed into the cow through the ass, cervix grasped. Needle in the right hand, thick as a slender finger, pushed into the cow through the vulva, through the cervix and the hand, into the muscle-skinned bag, the uterus. Semen in the needle released. Bull in the semen turned loose in the bag. Artificial insemination. In the bag, egg laid, seed scattered, fertilized. Yesterday's calf hatched, sprouted, calf in the bag began to grow, grew. Quickly grew, large grew, too large, stretched, the bag out, stretched. Before she stretched it too far, before she stretched it beyond repair, before she stretched it to the point of tearing open, before she began to butcher the cow from the inside, I tell you, Her mother didn't let the calf out of the bag. She pushed it out.
This one I wrote, when did I write it? I think sometime last year. And I tend to, like everybody here does, I'm sure, when I'm feeling something in the moment, sometimes words just strike. I have the pleasure of playing music with my boyfriend. So sometimes if he gets in trouble about something, he gets to play the song with the band and hear all about it. And I write lyrics to it. And this is a poem where just a little misunderstanding happened, but I wrote this out about, just sometimes misunderstandings that can happen in relationships. Yes, I'd say that this is, and it all came back together, but this is what I wrote at the time. I see you've been suffering. He done gone and missed the mark again. Even unintentional neglect can be quite abrasive. With this love, you have to shake it or embrace it, plant roots or turn the page and deem it friend. Requests are made, the groundwork laid, to avoid disaster's emotional shred. Hashed out the specifics, even when conversation feels quite prolific, history states 'tis bound to repeat and retread. With thy will and natural optimism, I blindly, bloody and gashed, dish out the vital, four-chambered, two-ventricled organ, served up for more clumsy attacks. Relax, deep vibrations resonate, apologies lash cochlea's intricate inner workings, recognition of mistakes and admission of flawed reactions received. The most important thing for me is to know I won't live it again. That's truly the majesty of reassurance I seek, the integrity I need to be swayed to believe, the great reprieve of the rare but relentless cycle of teary words unheard, blurred and bound to either dismantle, or if digested and distinguished, rapture my world. With the slow and still chilling, with the slow and still smooth stilling of the day's deafening chatter, with all my soul's fury, I yearn for the latter.
I have another one. This is an older one that I found. I'm not sure if I've read it before or not, but we'll go with it. I suppose I had darker poetry tonight. This one does not have a title. Okay. It's ripping open again. It's pouring, gushing blood, and it feels so good to feel again. This I know, this is familiar, lost and alone. This is where I belong. My romanticism has brought me here to die, alone, cold, broken, empty, except for the loneliness. It curls around my heart and squeezes, comforting me with the presence of pain's embrace. It may be hard to breathe, but I'm no longer alone. The cold is creeping back in. The relief of numbness ensues, not enough to forget its existence, but enough to dull the void. This massive, screaming chasm, how I have missed you. All is hidden in the blackness of your shadows. No more pretending under glaring lights. Relief to finally let go. Let the tears flow. No one will see them here. My screams will go unheard, absorbed into this tangible darkness. I disturb no one in my agony. I fight being alone, but isolation is what I crave in this state. Bring me your worst. I cannot feel it here. Let me bleed. No one can see it. Spilling, staining the ground. Wrap me with the fingers of death. Hold me in his hands. Walk me to the edge. Show me how it all ends. Then take me back again into the blinding oblivion of the darkness and the cold. Pain. I still feel the pain. Today is not the day it ends.
West Coast rain. Rainy day on the West Coast in the beginning of spring. Mother Nature is wearing new clothes, light to dark shades of green and yellow bright as the sun. Fog is moving in the valley, slowly moving with the breeze. Puddles are shining on the roads, streams are rushing off the mountains. The weather is clear as the summer sky, fresh and cold, it bites your skin. The smell of spring is in the air and fills your lungs with each breath. Eagles watch the whales from the sky, and the waves are crashing on rocks, creating a soothing sound like the rain falling on fresh spring leaves.
Call me mellow. When life gives you lemons, think of ochre things like a daffodil's trumpet or butterfly wings, or golden sunflower hero worshiping a sphere, or the laugh of a child lit up with good cheer. Picasso used yellow to make azure sing. The beetle used yellow to paint submarines. A smiley face, though happy, is a frown upside down. Revelers don't use jonquille when painting the town. A bird with the wing of vibrant canary might live in a cage, but is not ordinary, for her song carries joy and praises citrine, like the crown of a queen with harvest moonsheen. The blonde could be flaxen, otherwise hued, like unripe bananas, slightly subdued, or a yolk from a chicken, not pecking on grass, maize-colored corn, if GMO pass. If sallow is your color, give blushing a try, not brassy young men who are really just guys. Think lovers, undercovers, and trice gone by. In performance is performance straw-colored or nearing citron. If thinking of this puts your mind on the shade of a pigment so lovely it belongs on parade, or if trusting this color, think pale honey custard or butter and pineapples and chickpeas and mustard.
And so the year's wheel has spun full round again, that Samhain time is here. By the calendar of half my forebears, this is New Year's Day, the eve of Calan Gaeaf, first day of winter to the Celts. It is feeling very wintry indeed, and I feel the chill of age in my bones. Here and now, of course, it's Halloween, All Hallows Eve, vigil of the great day tomorrow, the feast of all the saints, the living and the dead. I've made no preparations for the day, carved no pumpkins, donned no costume, put up no decorations. I have no special mask to wear this night, but I have laid in a store of sugary provisions for the excited, becostumed door knockers who will soon be on the prowl before even nightfall has truly set in. We'll turn on the porch light as a sign of welcome, corral the dogs disturbed by this constant assault, and I will sit by the door. This is a night when I like to stay at home, wrapped in warmth of family and familiarity, for there is a feel to this time, a palpable pending, an atmosphere of possibility, both of promise and of dread. The old ones said the veil is thin this night, a time when the dead are not so far away. I know they are certainly on my mind. I give them thanks for their gifts to me, unknown passings down, and for my life itself. I honor their living and their dying, and invoke their aid and guidance for this new year. And when the traffic at the door has ceased, I'll turn off the light, close the drapes, and with a sigh, withdraw to my own place, my own self, my own time, and hope for better times to come in the year's new turning.
God go with you. In the suit you grew into and will grow out of in a year or two, and the tie and the shiny black shoes you wear only on Sundays, yes, and in the thoughts in your head too. God go with you. In the car your mother rides in, and Alice and Melvin and Billy and you and Jess, God too, that your father drives among all the people in all the cars that hurry through the Sunday morning maze of streets they turn onto avenues out of the 6 days of the week into the 7th they turn into parking lots. God go with you. In the car through the entrance onto graveled ground into the place among all the people forsaken God, cars that God didn't abandon. Yes, God looks out through the rows of windshields that face the concrete blocks of the wall of what Mother calls the house of God. God go home with you.
I haven't written very much lately, so I was like digging through the archives, and I don't think I was ever brave enough to read this one, to be honest. Maybe I did once, but I don't remember. Okay, so this is called Side Salad. You look at me with hunger in your eyes, disguised as interest. You are not the first man to view me this way. I'm sure you will not be the last. You see my body and want to have a taste. You chase a fantasy and think I may be able to comply. To be fair, you are not really disrespectful. Maybe tonight, that is all we want. But by the time the sun is rising, I will have grown discontent because, well, I have provided for you the appetizer, entree, and dessert. You were merely the side salad, and I wanted a steak.
There are days you miss her so much, you feel like crying all day. Her memories are etched in your mind since the moment you first held her in your loving arms. How could you let go of all that? You can't. She was literally part of you. Your flesh, your genes, and your blood. Now her body has stopped living and her spirit has moved on, but she will live on forever in your heart. You can feel her presence every time you see a beautiful flower or a butterfly fluttering in the warm sun. You can hear her voice in every breeze and wind. You can find a piece of her when you find a heart-shaped rock walking on the riverbank. And I think Dawn and I were walking along the river one day when she found a piece of a heart-shaped rock.
Could winners and losers begin in the home? When bullying even begins in the womb, where the larger twin punches the smaller? Is status just about fittest survival? Certainly, some violence begins at home, with bullying, brutality, even death for some. A powerful hierarchy that doesn't stop, with white males or their designates on top. And so violence ripples repeatedly on those designated as non-elite, continually barred from society's perks. It's tough to compete with those privileged jerks. With those long entitled running the show, their status keeps them from getting to know that others' lives are not their fairy tale bliss. Learning to listen would help them learn this. How can we restore people's agency so that all can speak their own truth freely? We must recast ourselves into caring and our institutions into feeling, not warring. As long as we tolerate who won and who lost, with winner take all and first past the post, where all our voters are not represented. The rich rule unchanged and resented. So how do we change our society? Vote for leaders who mirror our diversity. Let's elect a wide range of options. Demand proportional representation. Imagine if government looked just like us, with diverse ideas that we'd actually discuss. Imagine solving problems as people if we all work together as equals. Imagine working as community, what we could do with our commonality if we all had access to our agency. We'd unleash our talents communally. Imagine no more climate change dithering. Imagine working amicably on things. Imagine decisions becoming laws. Imagine a country with very few flaws. Perhaps we got a bit closer today with our cabinet nearing gender parity. With Steve Guilbeault acting for our Earth, or is he just window dressing for UN's alert? Hopeful hordes to COP26 converge, spewing CO2 in their wake, they emerge to reduce fossil fuels worldwide, their goal. If they don't succeed, it's at all our peril.
I never seem to be able to write anything with rhyme. So this is, I think, the one poem I have that's with rhyme, and I'm not sure that the last stanza is right. I've worked and worked and worked at it. But anyway, it's called Pedestals. I've built so many pedestals for those that I admire, but now I know it does no good to set them up much higher. Some have gifts of wisdom while others know a lot, and others have great talents with gifts that I have not. The more I learn of life and art, I see they're just like me, and all of them are human with foibles I don't see. I bring them down to level ground, my judgments now denied, and see that I am just like them, and we stand side by side.
This is a poem that starts with a question. When the heart is broken, left guarded and shy, where does love go? While the morning sun warms the pansy's nighttime shiver, an enticing invitation, a temptation irresistible. And the robin, wary of the feral cat, sings anyway, for she knows a pose arched is in need of soothing. Love, like water, through cracks, ever flows where there is space.
A while ago, a friend of ours, Stacy, posted a question on Facebook saying, "Tell me what your purpose is." She said, "Help me with my homework." I'm not sure what that was about, but tell me what your purpose is. So I wrote this. What is my purpose? Why am I here? To ask this seems to be a step down from the larger question, what is the purpose of life? Or, as Leibniz is credited with asking, although I'm sure many others have pondered the same both before and after his time, why is there anything rather than nothing at all? But that question is usually too big for most of us, and so we narrow its scope to the particular of our own individual selves. What is my purpose? Why am I here? I exist, I am, to be. And in that being, I am to experience life as it comes, to acknowledge and honor my experiences and my perceptions of them, the good, the bad, the unexpected, the joyous, and the tragic. I am here to formulate questions: why, who, how, where, when, and then to discard the ones that are not good questions, to seek answers, even though good questions more often lead to just more questions. I am here to question the certainties that I and others so quickly assert as the right answers, no matter how good or not good the questions that preceded them. I am here to seek meaning, to create meaning for myself, to share that meaning where it might be of use to others, to rest in quiet where no meaning can be found, to struggle along with all living creatures with the reality, or it seems, the necessity of suffering, and to ease that suffering wherever I can. I am here to seek beauty, to create or co-create more beauty, to celebrate and serve as well the good and the true. But I am not here to be a solitary me, for being demands to be shared. I am meant to live, or to aim to live, in kindness, in compassion, in generosity, all of which require another, others. I am me, but more than me. I am a part of we, of a couple, a family, a group of friends, the whole of humanity, the totality of creation. I am here to learn, perhaps again, that I am but a single note in the vast and complex score of being symphony, here to harmonize or to make delightful dissonance in the whole, or simply to rest for a bar or two in admiration and wonder, to know that small though I might be, I matter. And this, although I often live as if it weren't, is my purpose, to be, with all the fullness of being that is possible, to celebrate, to give thanks, and above all, to live a life of love incarnate in love itself.
This breath comes from before the invention of Adam. It comes from before the joyful tears of Ra were made human. It comes from before the creation of Utnapishtim's flood. Dinosaurs sucked this breath in and blew this breath out. It comes from before the first ice drooped from the poles toward the equator. Something breathes this breath out to cross the first sky, and across the final sky it breathes it in. Tonight I breathe this breath in, breathe this breath out.
So I just have a short little one here, and when I look at it, I really need to make it longer. It just made me think about my grandpa. He passed away. Oh, I don't even know. It was like 8 years ago, something like that. But I've really thought about him a lot over the times, and I've noticed lately, like when I see older gentlemen that like kind of remind me of my grandpa, I always kind of get hit with a wave of sadness. And one day I was in my office and this gentleman came in and was talking to me, and I like almost started crying like while I was talking to him. He just like had this thing about him that reminded me of my grandpa. And I just like jotted down a couple lines. It's not very long, but looking at it, I'm like, I need to write a longer one for grandpa. But here we go. I miss my grandpa. The memories make me cry. His warm smile, his gentle chuckle, squeezing his hand, giving him a hug. Not a lot of words spoken on the subject, but the love was there and real. I miss my grandpa, and this old guy is making me cry.
My love for you is deeper than any ocean, more tender than the gentlest reed, wider than the bluest, cloudless sky on a summer day, truer than any story. It is the song of my heart, steadfast as it beats day after day, and accompanies you on your way. I hold it in a safe place in the center of my heart. It will always be there with the deepest sacred knowing. I love you.
This coming poem is a continuation or sort of a second part to the poem I wrote to my friend Dawn. This poem I wrote after we went to Lundbreck Falls and threw flowers into the river to celebrate Lisa's life. Flowers floating, to Lisa Davis. Flowers floating down the river. A group of us throwing them into the water, watching them float by. Like our memories of you floating around in our minds. Your smile, your giggles, your words, your zest for life. We celebrate your short but rich life and try to be happy you were here, but it's hard not to cry. You brought so much love and joy into our lives. It is hard to say goodbye, but we try. We will let go of you, just like we let go of the flowers floating down the rivers, but we will never forget you.
Drink specials. Spirits in the spirit of a night for the spirits. The layer is thin on All Hallows Eve. Bereaved, the heaviest word out there, a word with such pain, what loss those involved live day to day. Bleed out, stiff, scent shocking tongue twister, her bewildered mix, aye, this concoction, this shot of heat-seeking bullets. Grand blend, this perfect mixture, a concise, balanced addition of parts. Dance up on my senses' delight, I welcome you with open arms. Impermeable, compass of genius and goodness. What it is to live honestly with others and try to see the best in everything until it crosses the threshold's brink. Just imagine the trip up. To split two parts of a friendship due to a disagreement. Eye to eye not reached often, and humanity should always look for their common ground. Therein lies the key to everything. Concluding here now in such a well-placed taste buds delight, well-grounded to do what I want, watching the stars of the greatest, most in-depth testament to insight.